Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. We're doing another Eden run. We had a really, nice... We're Princess Leia. 2XWG, 7G, 8J. Okay, well, we'll watch out for that on the way out. Both of these items are kind of bad. Except Glowing Hourglass is so good that they made it bad by nerfing it. Here's the thing. We started off friends. It was cool, but it was all pretend. Yeah. Since you've been gone. I don't remember enough of the rest of the lyrics to keep it going. That's alright. We're gonna keep this in the hopes of leveraging it for, if we fight the boss and we don't have a spirit heart on the next floor, and we take damage that costs us to deal with the devil, we can use this to get a deal with the devil instead. We could also use it to, reverse time if something truly terrible happens on a room. Maybe we'll want that. But moreover, I'd be open to replacing it for a better spacebar item. I'm just not sure that Kidney Bean fits the bill. Doesn't strike me as an item that inspires a high degree of confidence in your run, if I'm being honest with you. Probably endeavor to stop running into these enemies. Ooh, okay, so I mean, right off the bat, you're looking at this and you're going, better spacebar item. But I cannot get in there. So, we could buy, and this is where I'm like, hold up, I'm gonna try to kill this guy like so. This is a terrible idea. With a good rate of fire, we should just go for him. Well, that's one way to try to do it. Statistically, this run is fine, right? Like, you look at it and you go, okay, could be better. It's not like we're starting with 8 damage or something like that. Let's just leave this thing here and it'll block some shots at the very least. It's not like we're starting with 8 damage or, a 1 rate of fire, but a good rate of fire, adequate damage, adequate speed, which is very foreign to us after the last run. And otherwise, ample opportunities for success. I guess we could also use the hourglass just to get the heck out of town if things go terribly wrong. We can restart and get down to, well, we'll get back to 2 HP, I should say. What do you got for me? Lover's card. The Lovers. Really shows how bad the Ace of Hearts is, when in most situations, the Lover's card is going to beat it. Anyway, one second. I sent a message to Mouth, and he replied, and it's a bad thing to do to make you guys wait because of a correspondence I'm having with a friend of mine, but I know from experience, if somebody sent me a message that said Ryan, and I said what, I wouldn't want to wait 45 minutes because it's a little anxiety-inducing. Would you like to play Sea of Thieves instead of Siege on Tuesday for recording purposes? Do you have Windows 10? BRB. It's just common courtesy, I hit him with the little BRB so he knows not to expect, a message in the near future. You know how it is. Trying to be better about that sort of stuff in general. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I very much get annoyed. If somebody sends me a message that in any way is the implication of hey, we need to talk, and then I respond to them quickly, and they never get back to me, or at least take forever to get back to me, it's sincerely, actually anxiety-inducing. I'm like, you needed to talk, and yet here you are not replying to my message. And I'm not saying that's always a reasonable opinion. I'm just saying it, I'm conscious of the fact that it happens to other people as well. So, just letting you know, it's not a big PSA, it's not a big deal or anything like that. But if you do that to people, you might be triggering a certain degree of anxiety without really realizing it. And if you're a good person, you might want to avoid that. Sounds like I'm being a little passive-aggressive. I'm not trying to be, I promise you that. What makes you small? Little Horn is not an ideal enemy to fight, except he does blow himself up all the time. I'm trying to use Little Hushy to do so much damage, and really, unless it's an enemy that stands still, that's not going to be productive. Speed up is fine. How do I feel about it? Not as bad as you might expect, honestly. I don't think it's, it doesn't immediately do anything for us. No question about that. We could, by the way, if the door stayed open, we could have gotten another item, and I would have definitely gone for the too hard item. You never know. Could be a brimstone or a mom's knife sitting right under your nose. This floor, depending on the way you play it, could have gone much differently and probably much better. The Curse of the Unknown, or the Curse of the Blind, I should say, is still going to exist, but when you have more red hearts, you're going to have a much better chance of being able to get something to happen on this blood bank. You know, like a blood bag, for example. What is wrong with you? And then, we could have potentially gotten a blood bag, been able to buy the too hard item, or at least buy the spirit heart, and then you could take the too hard item anyway. And it might be a terrible too hard item. That's the thing. You might end up with Dark Prince's Crown, but then you could always hourglass yourself. I didn't really want to hourglass Guppy's Tail because it's still okay, usually. Rune bag. Rune bag is really good. I don't think it's an underrated item. I think it's an overlooked item to some extent. Not all runes are great. But you don't need a lot of great runes to make an appreciable impact on a run. And that's where the real beauty of this comes from. I guess we're just gonna leave. Again, not feeling particularly strong about this run. I mean, you would have to be a little bit overconfident to feel strong about this run right now. If we get another Guppy item, I'm feeling okay. This is fine. I know you're like, use the hourglass, you madman. But like, we haven't had, this is the kind of the danger, I think, of becoming like a little too safe. Like you feel safer than you actually are in Isaac. We haven't encountered anything that I would describe as like a catastrophic situation yet. Why would I be afraid of our present situation when it's fine? Like, we actually have nothing to worry about. Please come this way. Thank you. Oh my god, I made you dodge my shot. I do not respect it. There we go. Like, I only really want to use this when there's an appreciable impact that we could have gotten from it. Admittedly, it probably would have been best to use it to steal, although would we have had to fight the boss every time in order to see what the boss, or sorry, the deal with the devil items would have been? I'll do this now, because we got allergies. Honestly, really okay opportunity to do that. And another allergies. Another rune gone from the other rune bag. Another allergies rune. Doesn't really fit the song, but it's all called another allergies rune. No, man, that is just not even close. Little Hushy, why can't you be a carbon copy of Ludovico Technique instead of being decent but very unwieldy, you know? Oh, I don't like this room at all. It's the thing, these freaking enemies just dip out of the way. I would prefer if they didn't, because this makes Little Hushy so much worse. You know what? We're a big boy. We can wait for our run to get better. It probably will not happen on this floor because we're unlikely to get a deal with the devil. And you know, our stats are starting to kill me. They're burning me up inside. You can tell just by the tone of my voice, I'm deflating as we speak. And I don't mean in like an engorgement sense. I mean in like from a mood perspective. I'm looking at this run like 8 rate of fire, 3.17 damage. Yes, I did just glance at the damage counter. No, I do not have it committed to memory. It's going to be a little bit on the inadequate side. It wasn't very long ago. It was within the past week that we had that run where we had such poor DPS at this point of the game. It was the Flooded Caves. We had such poor DPS, the floor took us like 17 minutes to do. We're not quite at that level, but we're not super far away if I'm leveling with you on this one. So Papa Fly is okay, especially if your damage is horrible. Dude, We get the scissors, so we only need unicorn stump and maybe blank card plus the sun. We're really starting to make something potentially good happen here, like 1,001 or 1,000,001% good, if you know what I mean. So this is how you know this run's a little dicey. If I start using Anarchist Cookbook on a room full of mushrooms. We've been looking for the scissors for so long. I mean, that cements it now, right? Like, unless we've gotten Godhead and like, yeah, unless we've not gotten Godhead and just missed it somehow. Unicorn Stump will have the insane, well, it's not like it's an incredible stat. It's just very, very coincidental and unlikely that Unicorn Stump would be both the first item we got in Rebirth and the last item we got in Afterbirth Plus. Not like this is the last video ever, more like, you know, it's the last item we needed, would be a better way to describe that. It's one of those interesting stats, you know? People make fun of sports stats all the time. Oh, well, they haven't lost a game on a day that has a T in it since the Lincoln administration. As long as you ignore the outliers from the 1971 and 1994 season. You know, people make fun of that. This is a stat that's kind of interesting. I'm not trying to say it means that, you know, I'm not trying to draw a conclusion from it. I really think, like, and this is something people much smarter than myself say all the time, and I'm piggybacking very much so on the shoulders of giants. I really think, like, a basic statistical literacy class would be such a useful class for the population, at least in North America, to take. Like, I really worry sometimes that people will hear a stat like, well, Vancouver Canucks are 1-17 in games that take place on a Wednesday, and they'll go, we're doomed. When what that really means is that there's like, you know, like, unless they go out for like shrimp tacos on Tuesday and they get food poisoning or something like that. You know what? Forget you, mister. What that probably means is, you know, there's just a weird little area of clumped variance, and, you know, you don't need to necessarily try to derive any sort of conclusion from it just based on the fact that it's a stat that seems meaningful but may well not be, I guess. It's a correlation versus causation sort of thing. But then you really need to take the full statistics class, because if you just like read it on the internet, a number of times I'll hear someone say, you know, DAE correlation doesn't equal causation. And then you're like, yeah, but like, this isn't this isn't correlation, this is causation. Oh my god, yep. I was like, if we get in trouble, we'll just use our hourglass. Dude, level with me. That run sucked. What on earth? AXPH, Invizzle. We have Eve's Mascara and a 30 rate of fire. Our rate of fire is 30. We probably, by the way, should not have lost that last run. But it wasn't, we didn't throw a good run away. We might have been better off going with the scissors, as sad as that sounds, but it was a run we probably should have won, but it wasn't good. I'm looking at this one going, I almost held R, honestly. It's not like our damage is 6.77, so it's decent. But it is not nearly decent enough to justify the absurdly low rate of fire. This is comical. Okay, the secret room's nice. I kind of wanted small rock. We are taking some gameplay shortcuts. Like, there's a good example right there. We should not take the spirit hearts until we're done with the floor. You know, that's like, on the Isaac flow chart, that's one of the things you would say, is right? Like, especially on the first floor, you'll take all the red heart damage you're going to take and then pick up all the spirit hearts at the very end of it, just so you're not wasting any of the ones that could preserve a deal with the devil for you. Now, in our unique situation, we got a bad deal with the devil, or at least a deal with the devil we didn't know what was what. It's kind of a slightly different situation. Still, there were ways to win that run, I'm sure. Dude, I'm being straight up. This item room had better be at least on the upper 50% of items in this game. I know, I'm driving a hard bargain. But, like, it doesn't have to be a tiers upgrade, because that's unreasonable. If I were an unreasonable YouTuber, this better be a tiers upgrade, or I'm out of here. That's not reasonable, you know, there's so many different items in the game to expect it to be a tiers upgrade. Of course I would like it. That's a good item, it's definitely in the top 50%, no question about it. So thank you so much. Also a great example of why you wait until the end of the floor to pick up your spirit hearts. That's just gotten a little lazy about that. That's a bad idea. But the mind, oh dude, our shot speed is, it's not horrible, like, because shot speed is so much less relevant, but it's a little annoying that my shot speed is so bad I just can't, there's no, oh there is a shop, okay. My shot speed is so bad I just can't, my shots don't outrun me, I guess is what I'm trying to say, which again, is not that meaningful, but it's kind of funny. So we're gonna come back. We really want a speed upgrade, by the way. I think we're gonna try this tinted rock first. And I can live with that. But I was gonna maybe go, you know what, let's leverage that and do exactly what we would have done if we'd used the bomb to go into the secret room anyway, which is be disappointed with this room. The mind is awesome. I like it. I like it a lot. I would also like to get a tiers upgrade before I end up losing my mind. Normal, and that was just me getting stuck, but we want a speed upgrade, dude. That's why I'm not spending money on the shop on this floor. I want to get, we have HP. That's one of our resources that's actually bountiful right now. If we could use that HP to give us a chance, okay, to give us a blood bank, I'd be extremely pleased. I'm begging you. Just, like, I'm so worried about getting, like, a Curse of the Blind and then, like, some kind of damage downgrade. Or, like, you pick up a soy milk and because of Eve's Mascara, our rate of fire is, like, 4 and our damage is 0.67. It scares me, man. Luck? 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 No, okay, I'm not, like, upset or anything, but an arcade would go a long way towards making me feel better. We do not have one on this floor. Oh, dude, okay. Eden's Blessing is actually a huge improvement for us. It almost doubles our DPS, which is amazing. Also a little bit indicative of how bad our DPS was until just a moment ago. And our DPS is still probably slightly below average, but you can run the calculations on that. You know, if your average run is 10 rate of fire, 3.5 damage. I guess we have more than double damage. Or sorry, yeah. We have more than, no, we have less than double damage, but only mildly. When was the last time you went to an arithmetic class? 7 divided by 2? The real answer, by the way, is the last time I went to an arithmetic class was like literally in maybe like the 6th grade. Definitely did some multiplication in 6th grade. After that, it gets a little bit more, you know, geometrical, algebraic. Depends on where you live. You know what? I don't mean this to be rude to my American friends. And viewers, of course. Especially viewers. Because I can be rude to my friends because we can banter. But for you guys, it's like, you know, you just gotta sit there and listen to it. But whenever you talk, well, I won't say for all Americans. I notice the tendency when you talk to Americans about school, they'll talk about their classes as if it's like a national standard that you should be aware of as well. I'm like, yeah, did you guys have calc classes in high school? And they're like, oh yeah, dude. Grade 10, Calc 1, grade 11, Calc 2. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. It's not like... oh my god, the rock saved us. Thank you, Dwayne. Is there like a nationalized curriculum in the US? So it's like, you know, if someone from Indiana was talking to someone from Oregon, they'd be like, how's Calc 1? You know? We have that on a provincial level in Canada. But, you know, each province, they have their own kind of stipulations, I guess. We had a calculus class. I don't know if it still exists. I was told that it was being discontinued, and because I had just finished it, I was like, that's unfair. This is the cellar, too. Oh, my God. We probably should buy a spirit heart. Not because I, you know, once you learn something, it becomes, and I don't know if you've noticed this about adults as they tend to get older, but once you've learned something, for somebody else to not be encumbered by having to learn it is like an affront to your place in society. The total difference, typing, cursive writing. I am old enough that I had classes both in cursive writing, which is the stupidest thing of actual all time, and I can't even imagine, you know, you take these cursive writing classes at a time in your life, it's just handwriting. When your brain is so plastic that if they taught you like a year's classes in Cantonese, you'd pick it up. Instead, they're like, what should we do with this incredible plastic human brain during its most flexible years of existence? Let's just teach them how to write slightly faster, but still substantially slower than typing, unless they become one of those people that like learns shorthand, in which case it'll be marginally faster, but they'll end up with arthritic wrists by the time they're like 45. You know, just a sincere waste of time. The other one is typing. My computer class in 9th grade was typing and how to use Google. It's sad. It was 2002, so it's like, you could have taught us like Flash or something like that. We all knew how to use a computer. It was just a waste of everybody's time. Dude, I love the speed upgrade. Thank you. And, oh, absolutely, I will grab Juice's Shadow. Thank you so much. And then I'm thinking, I'm not gonna take it. Because I got bigger plans. We are gonna respawn. Because, like, can we double our damage again? Now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, stealth detection. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure that that works. Because we've already doubled it once. Can you continue to double your damage? I thought you could only have one damage multiplier. Whatever, dude. Like, kill me. I'd like to go to the curse room instead of dying, but it's really your call. Okay, we'll take Blackrun, obviously. What a waste. But for all the other classes, like, I took all the math my school offered. Just like one, if you go start at 9th grade, it's like one class, 3 classes. I took them all. And then when they talked about discontinuing them, I was like, I don't think so. Not on my watch. You know, to some extent, I'll leave it up to the educators, I guess. Was calculus important for me? No. Not because I never used it in real life, but because the first year of university just did it over again. And I think in many ways, I actually, like, when I went to university, I did worse in calculus and chemistry and, you know, the classes that I'd already taken before. Because I already knew the material, so I wasn't challenged and engaged, you know? There's some degree of that, I think, that actually matters. This run has evolved into a run that is actually okay. 14 damage means I can't complain about a rate of fire too much, but I think you can always complain about a rate of fire that's like this bad. We're killing enemies relatively quickly, probably faster than average, but I do want to, in my own defense, you know, say it's still kind of like the rate of fire is still pretty. It's a marked problem with the run right now. Now, if we could double our rate of fire, we get to, like, you know, 7 rate of fire, 8 rate of fire, 6 rate of fire, anything in that rough range. I'm looking at it, I'm a much happier man. Keep in mind, I'm a little light in the HP department as well, by design. This rhyme I'll explain in due time. You're very lucky. Oh, very sneaky. If only my shot speed was, like, you know, above 1. Might have a chance to hit you with a shot that is actually aimed properly, but I digress. Again, I don't want to be Mr. Complaining, Isaac. We died on that last run, didn't complain at all. My own faults, probably. for misusing the hourglass. But, like, have I been shooting an enemy that's immune to damage until we kill his minions? I might have been wasting a little bit of time there. But don't think twice, it's alright. Yeah, it totally was. I think? We might have just gotten absurdly unlucky and either missed or hit the fly every time, but I don't know. I don't think so. So, shot speed is like a weirdly, really important get for us. Or it's something that makes shot speed irrelevant. Like, even shoot-to-whoop once every 2 rooms would be... Okay, that's not really what I asked for. Best bud, like a latent fly. Pushing that button, dude. Just idiotic decision there. Pushing that button tends to be a bad decision. Told you. Even when it's good, it's kind of bad. I'm just gonna level with you. I think we duplicate everything. So card the moon. And I think we'll just use Black Rune to get 3 stat ups. And they were damage and rate of fire, so I'm actually pretty happy. Actually, they were shot speed as well, somewhere in there. So, single-handedly, that 1 Black Rune, combined with, you know, Mom's Pad giving a little bit of a noble sacrifice, might take us out of the doldrums here. I mean, we got 18 damage and 12 rate of fire. Now we're in, like, sincerely don't complain or I'll beat you up territory. That's me talking to myself. I mean, normally you do not have 18 damage by this point in a run. And 12 rate of fire is higher than normal, aka like slower than normal. But it just goes to show you, dude, like, Isaac is such a feast or famine game. Like, there's some games, some roguelites, I should say. I think Slay the Spire is an example of the opposite. And I'm going to resist the notion to say that one school of design is better than the other, because, I mean, I got 2,400 hours in this game. I got 200 hours in Slay the Spire, and I enjoy them both a great deal. Not going to take that. It's just too risky right now. But Slay the Spire is kind of like your run is the sum of all parts. Sure, they're not all created equal. You know, when you order a meal at a restaurant, you're paying for the garnish, in addition to paying for the, you know, the main focus and the side and the service and et cetera, and surely some of those are more important than others, but really, you know, one card could be the difference between life and death. Even if the card's not that amazing, drawing it at the right time could prove important, you know? Isaac is a lot more about, like, those feast or famine sort of items. Like, we only have 8 items on the whole run. And yet, our run looks so good. What did it? Well, really like a single Black Rune turning a bad spacebar item into 3 good statistical upgrades. You know, not every element in the game here is even close to being created equal. I will admit, I'm getting the let out here. I don't really want to do a boss trap room. We're a little bit behind schedule for boss rush, but I think we can make it now that our stats look good. So I'm going to try to. Because, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we had a 51-minute run. Ooh, let's actually go. We had a 51-minute run, and then we died 13 minutes into this run. And now we're behind schedule for boss rush. So, you know, Dad's getting a little antsy is what I'm trying to say. And that's, I'm not trying to rush through the run and cause problems, but it's not like I got anything better to do. It's just like I'm kind of, every once an hour I need to, like, not look at the screen for a little bit for the sake of my own brain, more or less. It starts to pour out through my ear holes. Okay, the red hearts, don't get me wrong. Happy to see them. Not really. But would you mind, perhaps, inundating me with hearts of a different variety so I could use them? It's like I'm gluten intolerant for real. I feel bad for people that are really gluten intolerant. It sounds like a very, and it is, I guess, kind of a pompous thing to say. But people always, of all the things, like food allergies that people make fun of, gluten intolerance is definitely, I think the biggest. Next to maybe like veganism. But gluten intolerance gets a bad rap. Because until like 10 years ago, it was limited to people who like had a diagnosable condition like celiac. And now the impression is like, oh, my doctor told me not, oh, I did a cleanse and my gluten levels are too high, you know? So if you're out there and you have a real gluten intolerance, I feel for you, because you're being judged unfairly. If you're out there and you just think you have a gluten intolerance, or you prefer not to eat gluten, I feel for you too. Why are we so, concerned about the things that other people eat? Like, I don't own a restaurant. I don't need to provide gluten-free options. I live in, like, the most gluten-free city in Canada, probably. And, never once have I been at a restaurant and they're like, sorry, we only have gluten-free options that are demonstrably worse than the gluten options, you know? I will always... In fact, if I see gluten-free on a menu, this is not a joke. If I'm gonna order something and I see that it's gluten-free, I will oftentimes order something else because I assume that at one point, the real version of that dish has gluten in it. I don't want an imitation, and I don't know any better. So give me another dish that is not gluten-free, because as far as I know, I'm not intolerant to gluten, and I like the taste of it. But if you do want to be gluten-free, by all means. Doesn't bother me any, dude. Just think we gotta... I mean, do I think it's a little bit of a fad? Yeah. I think if you're, like, not actually intolerant to gluten, it's not something I would consider a high priority to limit your options by, putting on the air of having a gluten intolerance, but I'm also not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not in particularly good shape myself. Doesn't bother me, for the most part. Unless if we encounter a situation in the future in which there's like legislation that's like all restaurants need to be gluten-free, I'm like, alright, this is getting a little crazy now, guys. You want me to have a gluten-free hamburger bun for every hamburger? I don't think so. I mean, I'll give it a try and see if I prefer it, but, you know, within the bounds of reality, that seems unlikely to happen. People are really mean to each other about food stuff, man. Sometimes. Probably not everybody. Dude, forget Boss Rush. I know we said we were going to try to make it, but that was just so I had plausible deniability to skip a room I didn't want to go to anyway. Hey, by the way, what's our HP at? Starting to get a little nervous here. Could have placed that better, but, you know, my heart was in the right place. Felt the same way we brought up, and I'm not trying to throw my co-hosts under the bus. Again, we make jokes at each other's expense, but when I was talking about being on that airplane on the NLSS, and I had gotten almonds, and I think they sold them in the airport, or peanuts, but I was like, I want to get peanuts, because it's an 11-hour flight. And peanuts are small and calorically dense. So I probably should not have done this, by the way. What is... Oh, God, we have marked. Peanuts are small and calorically dense, so I thought they were like a perfect snack. And then, as I was eating them, Kate was like, maybe you shouldn't eat those because someone on the plane might have an allergy. And I was like, you know what? You're right. But they did sell them at the airport. I feel kind of like I'm not responsible for somebody else's peanut allergy. I was really surprised that the attitude of some of my co-hosts was like, if you're that allergic to peanuts, you should just live your whole life in a bubble. I'm totally fine with picking a different snack in order to let you continue to live your life. And I'm not trying to phrase it as if I'm some kind of bulwark of tolerance or something like that, but, you know, if the jurisdiction was handed down... And I have the luxury to say this because I'm not a peanut farmer. No offense, Jimmy Carter. But if the government was like, hey, just so you know, these kids these days are being born with crazy peanut allergies. If they come in contact with peanut vapor, they're going to die. So we're like, as of right now, you can't buy peanuts. You can't eat peanuts anymore. I'd be bummed. I like peanuts. But I'd be like, you know what? Making that sacrifice so that another person can... live safely, you know, they can enjoy the same kind of luxury that I enjoy, which is that I go outside and I don't feel like, you know, at any possible moment I could be destroyed by an invisible amount of nut vapor. That's a relatively minor sacrifice for an incredibly major gain on their end, so I'm happy to do it. But the attitude that they took to some extent was like, hey man, I want peanuts. This is a, you know, a free country. If I want peanuts, I'm gonna eat peanuts. It's just surprising the fundamental difference there. I'm not saying, by the way, that they're wrong. I'm probably a little bit too much on the sensitive side there. End up, you know, oh, you can't go outside without your fingernails clipped because, you know, they got sharp edges. Someone might get it cut. I think that's, I tend to be a little overly sensitive to stuff like that, but still. I'm just letting you know, if you suffer from a nut allergy, you know who to spend your Twitch Prime subscriptions on. Because if you're sitting next to me on the airplane, you tell me not to eat it, I'll stop eating. I'm not even gonna ask, oh dude, I love it. I'm not even gonna ask you to buy me something like from the airport meal box, even though I think it would definitely be well within my rights. I mean, if you, I don't want to say it because it's a little classist, I suppose, but if you have a food allergy and you tell someone to stop eating food because of your allergy, you should hook them up. I'm not saying you should buy them, you know, a 5-star meal from Chef Gordon Ramsay's Vij or something like that. I'm just saying, you know, it would be a nice gesture, let's put it that way. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on food allergies. Same like vegetarian veganism. I've done this show for so long at this point that we don't even need to say it anymore. But the number of times I encounter a smarmy vegan or vegetarian versus the number of times I hear someone online being like, how do you know somebody's a vegan? They'll tell you. You know, it's like literally like 1,000 to 1 at this point. It just doesn't happen. People, maybe it's different in other parts of the world, I guess, but I think they concoct these situations in their head when they're like in the shower. I was eating a plate of ribs, and a vegetarian came over to me and said, excuse me, don't you know that some of us are vegetarians? And I shut her down so hard. I'm not saying that those people do not exist, by the way. I'm sure they do. I mean, I've seen, you know, what is it, foot-long hot dogs closed for business. Foot-long vegan hot dogs open for business. Those people exist. And that's a step too far. That's a public nuisance. That should remain a private nuisance. However, you can just look up vegan open for business if you need the supplementary materials for this. I'm guilty of it too. You know, you concoct these situations in your head all the time, dude. Like, I'll be in the shower because I got like a beef right now with one of my professors at the school I go to. It's like week 11, and he hasn't marked anything. And we've submitted a ton of assignments. If you've heard me on the show, you've heard me talk about this from time to time. But like, it's really hard for me, and I think for like human beings, to stay motivated to like do the homework in this class when I know it's not getting marked, but it matters for marks for like our final exam, or for our final mark, I should say. Just so I didn't want to say mark 200 times in the same sentence. Take me, country roads. So I'm being real with you. It's a 12-week course. Next week will be week 11, I think, but I'm trying to remember because like I think we want to do it like this. You know, one of the weeks got canceled because of illness. So anyway, the point is, so I got this beef with my professor, and you know, he's living his own life. The reason I avoid going too far over the top is I don't know what's going on in his life. You know, everybody's got problems. Maybe his family's got trouble, or he's sick, or genuinely ill, or something like that. I have no idea. So I'm not raising a stink. But in my head, I'm like, I've already gone through the reality of like, oh, I got a mark that I felt I didn't deserve in the class, but he didn't hand things back in a timely fashion, so how am I supposed to know? We've already had that argument in my head, despite the fact that it has not come to fruition in reality yet. So I totally get it. It is a little crazy. I have sympathy beyond that, because some people are going like, you know, whenever we talk about it on the show, and I can't believe it's gone on this long either, that we haven't gotten any marks. But it's not like we've handed in 2 things. Some weeks are 0, but some weeks are like 7 things. And we did a midterm exam like a month and a half ago, and there's no results for it yet. But, no. Okay, that's it. People are like, well, you're paying for that class. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And I deserve like a good educational experience, but the lectures are good. The administrative side of it is not good, but as long as I get the credit, counts on my transcript, and I learn something from the lectures, I'm willing to count it as like, it wasn't a waste of time, okay? Like, I'm very sympathetic in that regard. I'm also, like, I understand the role of someone having, like, people, like, to be beholden to people, I guess. You know, I've published, like, 130 videos a day or something like that, ridiculous at this point, and whenever I miss one, people are, like, immediately, hey, where's this one this day? You know, even if a series is not that successful, you know, there might be like 10,000 people that watch it every day. If even 0.1% of those people go to Twitter, which they have the right to do, and go like, hey, where's this video? That's like once every 2 hours someone's gonna bug you. And it's not really bugging because I dropped the ball, but you get the idea. So I'm very sympathetic to, like, I don't want to get up in his menchies and be like, hey, dude, what's going on? But I probably should have like 4 weeks ago, but now it's like to the point that it's kind of like ridiculous. Anyway, but yeah, it's, you know, I've had the conversation in my head about what happens. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, here's the only thing that makes me mad. Sure, why not? We've had a good run on this one. The only thing that makes me mad is if you don't, oh, these are some serious eyeball tears, man. If you don't want to mark things, judgment, then that's fine. You know how many university professors don't want to mark things? I've been through the ringer. Here's what you do. 30% midterm, 70% final. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some people prefer that style of class, some people don't, but I got no problem with like a final exam that's worth almost 100% of your mark. I don't think it's necessarily the best way to teach programming, something that usually requires, like, you know, regular practice in order to keep up, but it's better than giving out the assignments than never giving any feedback, I think. So that's the only thing that bugs me is I'm like, why have I handed 30 things into this class if you don't want to mark them? We could make each other's lives so much easier if you wanted to just minimize your requirements. But anyway, this is just my own idle complaining to some extent. If I want to be a true millennial, I'll tell that story to my mom and get my mom to phone the dean and say this is ridiculous. So, oh dude, sign me up. I was just gonna say, I thought we might have the Vincent adult man transformation. I'm an easygoing guy, even though I start the episode, you know, yes, oh, I hate St. Patrick's Day. All holidays suck if you have to show any outward signs of cheer. I'm January? No, I'm generally and genuinely a pretty easygoing guy. I walk into the classroom, he's like, 100% final. I'm, all right, dude. 100 labs worth 1% each. All right, seems a little ridiculous, but let's get down to work. You better start assigning them quick, because that's gonna be a lot of Dropbox folders. That's all I'm saying. I can take it either way. It doesn't bother me, but not returning the results bothers me. But we're getting too far. This is a situation where I'm wary about going too far, because I know that everybody's gonna be on my side. A, because I'm like, you know, you're watching me, so you have a built-in sort of, you know, enjoyment of my videos, or you hate them so much but have nothing else going on in your life that it provides you with some sort of weird Schadenfreude entertainment. But I mean, either one is really fine from an advertising standpoint. So, but then beyond that, I'm also right. So, like, you know, we don't need to go off on a rant here. If you already know that you're in the right, you know, there's no convincing to be done. So I'm gonna ride Brimstone until the end of this floor. I gotta admit, for all the negatives of this run at the start of it, namely the fact that our rate of fire was roughly 1/3 of what it normally is, It provided an amazing base for rerolls because we have a certain threshold of damage we almost can't fall under. So I don't think multipliers get rerolled, or erased on a reroll rather. It's not like you're taking a 2 multiplier and rolling it to a 0.1 or something like that. But if you got soy milk, it probably would happen that way. See what I mean? Potentially. Potentially, it happened to me. Great song. Grocery store classic. I don't know what, every time we roll, we get like a bunch of new items. Okay, very interesting. Our damage is good. We have Curse Die, don't we? Yeah, we do have Curse Die. I mean, you could tell that visually, but sometimes when there's so much stuff happening on the screen, you're just like... you get tunnel vision. Fill your eyes with tunnel vision, Fry Man. So I've botched this something fierce. I used Hematemesis and then... oh, thanks, Mom's Toenail. Perfect timing. I used Hematemesis willy-nilly and then just walked into another room. Could very easily have ruined my... I mean, still could. Ruin my entire existence. I like Hematemesis. It's a really... I think it's a cool pill because you can have situations like that where it totally screws you, and then situations where it's just incredible, right? So, I wail on these pills a little bit from a critical standpoint, but that's a good one. It's got pluses and minuses that boil down to game mechanic stuff instead of just like, this pill makes your vision funny. This pill is just, it's got a funny name. I really thought that if I shot there, I could deflect him enough. There was method to my madness, I swear to you. Well, these are the right kind of enemies to fight right here. Wow, no! I was so ready. Please. Alright. Wow, every stat got worse. What? That's amazing. Disregard what I just said about every stat getting worse because blinding light makes that completely irrelevant. Oh, I mean, of course. For you. Nah, that won't be necessary. Now the problem is we're almost certainly going to reroll this once more. Now, I mean, we don't have to, but, I mean, you know me. I have to. What you think, I sold them all? Dr. Dre. It's a line from Straight Outta Compton. What has happened? This is also very good. You don't remember that part from Straight Outta Compton where he says, what you think, I sold them all? It was right before he said the line, Papa don't preach. I've made up my mind and I'm keeping my baby. You know, you're sending mixed messages. I don't know if I want to reroll this. Like, I know there's a joke that, like, every D4 run ends with Tech X, but, like, 1 rate of fire, 3 damage Tech X is absurdly good. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.